thanks to Rothy's for supporting Mueller, She Wrote. Have you heard about this company making stylish shoes for women and girls out of recycled plastic water bottles? Oh, and they're insanely comfortable and machine washable. Go get yourself a pair today with free shipping at rothys.com and use the promo code AG. And thanks to Noom for supporting Mueller, She Wrote. Getting in shape isn't just about losing weight. It's about learning healthier habits and feeling better about yourself. Noom helps us learn to develop a new relationship with food. Sign up for your trial today at Noom, NOOM.com/AG. And thanks to Grove for supporting Mueller, She Wrote. Grove makes healthier home products accessible and affordable. Over 500,000 families shop Grove.co for non-toxic dish soap, plant-based skincare, and tree-free bath tissue. For a limited time, our listeners get a 3-piece cleaning set from Mrs. Meyers Spring Scents, a free 60-day VIP membership, and a surprise bonus gift, just for signing up and placing an order of $20 or more. Go to grove.co, not .com/AG for info.
This is Andrew McCabe, and you're listening to Mueller, She Wrote.
So to be clear, Mr. Trump has no financial relationships with any Russian oligarchs.
That's what he said. That's what I said. That's obviously what our position is.
I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I not have communications with the Russians.
What do I have to get involved with Putin for? I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him. I don't know anything about him other than he will respect me. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
So, it is political. You're a communist.
No, Mr. Green. Communism is just a red herring. Like all members of the oldest profession, I'm a capitalist.
Hello and welcome to Mueller, She Wrote. I'm your host, AG, and with me, as always, are Jaleesa Johnson.
Hello.
And Jordan Coburn.
Hello.
First, a big thank you to everyone who made the Webbies this past weekend possible, whether you voted for us or just listened to us or were there with us. We hope to see you again next year with our forthcoming daily news podcast, The Daily Beans, coming soon to this feed. Also coming soon, I think May 23rd, so now it's going to have to be, will be the first episode of our page-by-page review of the Mueller report. So look for that. Patrons get that early and ad-free.
Yeah.
But we're releasing it to the public starting on May 23rd. And seriously, we go through it line by line. We give you context. We do our whole curatorial journalism bit. We tell you who we think's in the redacted parts.
Yeah, it's like audio cliff notes, but funnier.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's actually... It actually probably just takes a lot longer than just reading it. But, we want to go really deep into it because I hear only 3% of Americans have read it. So y'all need to hear it. So we're going to do that for you and make it entertaining, hopefully. June 14th, we'll be in Minneapolis at the Parkway Theater. Tickets are still available at MuellerSheWrote.com. We would love to see you there. There's also a VIP meet and greet, I believe, for that event. Those are my favorite things.
Yeah, best time ever.
And then I think we might try to set up some sort of a side deal on Saturday, the 15th, with patrons if you want to come out and meet and hang out with us or maybe have dinner or something. We'll figure it out.
That'd be so fun.
If you're a patron and you own a restaurant or a meeting space in Minneapolis, hit us up at hello@MuellerSheWrote.com. We'll see what we can set up. That'd be cool. This was a blistering week in the news with some bombshell information about Michael Flynn and his case. Along with the onslaught of anti-choice laws sweeping across Republican-controlled states, not to mention the Department of Justice joining Trump in stonewalling congressional oversight. There's also news about Rick Gates, the Meyers hearing on Trump's tax returns, Don Jr.'s testimony to the Senate Intelligence Committee, the possible reasons Mueller's testimony could be delayed, Steve defying a subpoena. That's who I call Mnuchin because he prefers Steven, so I'm just going to call him Steve. And hacked counties in Florida. But sure, yeah, the Mueller probe's over and there's nothing else to report.
Yeah, all done.
Yeah, we're all finished.
Yeah. It's still just the special counsel.
But before we get into all the facts, how was your week, you guys?
It's been great, actually. Yeah, despite the news.
Yeah, I was going to say, objectively, in my life, good. News, not so much, and that's been affecting my mental state.
Dude, there's a full moon tonight, too. I wonder if that's going to do anything to us.
Yeah, maybe. I had a dream last night that I was trying to hide from an active shooter.
Whoa.
And I've actually talked to 4 other people on Twitter today who had the same dream last night.
Uh-oh. I hope that you are not
I don't think it's
clairvoyant.
prescient. I think it might be a full moon thing, or maybe we all get on weird dream cycles.
Yeah, I hear this is just astrology beans, but I hear that it's supposed to heighten your senses. So if you're feeling anxious about something, maybe that's just rising to your conscious level. Yeah. So school shootings or just shootings in general have been happening a lot.
Yeah, I was at a friend's wedding, and I was trying to escape in the snow, and I think it was the snow because my window was open and I was cold. But there were people after me with guns, and I can't because I don't know why.
It could be metaphorical, but it also could be literal. I think either way you could be under stress.
And this friend got married like 19 years ago, so I don't even understand
Wow.
what that was about.
You might need a nice little relaxation day just to unwind.
I'll try to find one of those in the coming years.
Yes. Get yourself some bath salts. And smoke them.
Yeah, not those bath salts.
No, the opposite of
like
unwinding.
the Calgon type.
I don't know if you
Very
even
nice.
smoke the bad bath salts.
Hey, you can smoke anything if you're brave enough.
True.
That's true. Well,
Get it
thank
hot
you.
enough, that shit will smoke.
Thanks, Jaleesa, for that.
Sorry.
But yeah, it was a tough.
I think that bravery is the metric and not like stupidity.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Definitely stupidity.
Well, there's no bravery without fear, and stupidity. I think kind of I've noticed
You can weave it in there a little
those
bit.
dudes with no fear shirts tend to be less smart.
I just saw a sticker, like a bumper sticker that said, "No airbags will die like men." Is that bravery? Is that bravery?
I
don't
hope
know.
it's just a joke.
I was hoping so
too. Yes,
because that's pretty funny if
that
it's just
is
a joke,
hilarious.
right?
Yeah,
depends on who's in there.
Right, right.
I'm hoping it's like an astrophysics professor that's having it
Do they also have
ironically on the back of his
like a Science Mart sticker on the back, or do they have do they have another sticker that says like I believe in tit for tat?
That
wants
is a
some
good
tat?
question.
Then we know.
I'll follow up. I was distracted by the first sticker.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Why even have auto insurance at that point? If that's your
Well,
bumper
they might
sticker,
not.
their premiums are probably like $1,000 million.
Yeah.
I love that. That's how you think about that.
Yeah, I
Very
know.
responsible
God.
of you.
When I was young, I wanted to
capitalism.
like open up a skate land, but with a bar. But now that I'm older, I'm like, that's an insurance nightmare.
Oh, that's so funny, though.
Yeah, you start thinking about that insurance.
Ugh, gross. Liability is the death of life.
Of fun. You're like, who am I anyway?
Yeah.
What happened to the? Oh well. But my insurance premiums are low, so I guess there's a benefit.
Hey.
All right, guys, before we get into the facts, we have my favorite segment. It's time for corrections.
It's a mistake. It's hard for me to say I'm sorry.
I apologize.
Shut the fuck up!
Okay, this week in corrections, the origins of MS-13 are Salvadoran, not Honduran. The most are born here in the United States. They just have Salvadoran heritage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it, guys. That's our main correction this week. We get an A+ pretty much.
I was going to say that's a good thing, right?
That's pretty good.
Though there was one more correction about how we see color and how I said that if we don't see colors as vividly when it's dark because of a lack of reflective light. Someone pointed out it has to do with the structure of the eye and how our cones of the famous couple Rodson cones need more light to function, and they're the ones who distinguish color. So we weren't exactly wrong as much as we didn't go into detail about why the absence
Right,
of
that's
light.
a different podcast there. We're getting into different podcast territory.
Your ability to see color. Right, science faction. You should do this.
Yeah.
It also sounds metaphorical in a sense.
It does.
Your
I don't
ability
see color.
to see color.
Yeah.
I hate when people say that. Too.
I know. It's like, really? You're fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
I had a
really,
friend-
my cones are all fucked up.
That's actually a good excuse. If
My
a white person
fucking
ever wants to
cones.
say that about being colorblind, I'll take it.
Yeah, the only reason you shouldn't see color is because your cones are fucked up.
Nice.
I'm going to ask next time. Something wrong with your cones?
Right?
Barbara?
Barbara.
It's always Nancy or Barbara. or
Definitely.
something. Pat.
Yeah.
A friend of mine asked on Facebook this week, speaking of things being figurative and literal, said, hey, I need to borrow a pair of crutches for a sketch I'm doing.
Interesting.
It's like when literal meets figurative.
Yeah.
Shout out Dave Callens.
Oh, I love him.
I know, he's so fucking great.
He's the best.
Anyway, we didn't... Oh, there was another thing about Praz, Michelle, being short for Procazerol, but we didn't say it was short for something else. We just didn't guess.
So just like another little additional tidbit.
And also someone wrote in to tell us we were right about John Roberts being the Chief Justice of SCOTUS, so that's just a pat on the back.
Nice.
But not too many corrections this week. I feel like we should make some up. Like when I said Trump was acting like a 9-year-old when he tweeted no do-overs, maybe it's more like a 7-year-old behavior.
Oh, I like
Yes.
that. Yeah, definitely.
More nuance.
Yeah, I feel like a 9-year-old might have a better
yeah,
comeback.
we should just start rumors.
Okay. Do you guys? Yeah, I'm just making up corrections.
Yeah, that's the best that I think we can come up with for now.
Sounds good.
We'll circle back later.
All right.
Yeah.
With corrections. If you have any fake corrections, send them to hello@MuellerSheWrote.com or real ones. Because, like I said, we are 3 comics. I'm not a lawyer. None of us are. And so any corrections, we want to make sure to set the record straight.
Yeah, we're not colorologists.
Yeah. My cones are fine. So send those to hello@MuellerSheWrote.com. And with corrections out of the way, let's get to the Mueller news with just the facts. All right, guys, all this week, people with uteruses have been under attack by the Republicans in an all-out effort to ban abortion and overturn Roe v. Wade. And Jordan's going to cover that news in the hot notes. And the reason I said it that way is because somebody pointed out to me today, and I think that this is really important. It's not just women who have a uterus.
Some men or just people.
There are people who have a uterus who don't identify as a woman. Mm-hmm. So instead of saying, attack on women, this is just attack on people who this affects. So I wanted to put that out there and say, hey, thanks for pointing that out. Mm-hmm. I also tweeted it and Facebooked it because I think it's important that people remember that. A gentle reminder, though, not like you asshole, what's wrong with your cones? You can't see? No. But I do think that that's an important distinction.
Very important.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But on Tuesday, May 14th, and this is probably going to be the longest A block. This is like, I feel like Maddo, like I should start in World War II.
Yes.
And somehow end up
connected.
End up here.
Load all of our ads in the last 5 minutes of the show.
Right, totally. But on Tuesday, May 14th, Trump's lawyers and counsel for the House Oversight Committee duked it out in front of Judge Amit Mehta over Trump's lawsuit against Congress. He sued Elijah Cummings and the House Oversight Committee to prevent them from getting Trump's tax and financial documents from the tax firm Meyers. We've been talking about this for a while. If you remember, Meyers was all set to hand the stuff over, but asked for a friendly subpoena, which Cummings obliged. A very friendly-like, mostly just covering their ass subpoena. If someone was asking me for potentially incriminating shit against the president, I'd probably say, give me a subpoena so that I can say I was subpoenaed.
Yeah, this whole court case is a testament to that being a good decision.
Exactly.
Indeed. We then learned that Trump and his businesses sued Cummings and the Oversight Committee to block the document request, citing that there was no legislative purpose for the subpoena. Okay. We then reported that Judge Mehta had put out an order stating that basically he wasn't going to fuck around with multiple hearings and a trial, and he consolidated the hearings and the trial under Rule 65A2, if I'm remembering that correctly, to take place in one day, in one hearing, which we took to mean this shit is too easy, so don't waste our time with a long, drawn-out process. And that was important for more than just the case seeming to lean in Congress's favor, but this could set precedent for the speed at which similar cases are considered in the future, and according to lawfare, what substantive legal grounds they're based on.
Yeah.
So that is an important thing that I didn't note the last time we spoke about this. The substantive issue in this case is whether Congress can lawfully obtain financial information about a sitting president from a third party, like Meyers, as part of an investigation. As we know, this was all kicked off when Cohen testified that Trump inflated his assets to illegally obtain loans and deflated his net worth to defraud insurance companies and taxpayers. Of course, we already knew this, but Congress didn't move forward until they had that testimony corroborating these charges from Cohen. And I thought for sure that one of the legal arguments from the congressional lawyer Douglas Letter in this hearing would be that if Congress were simply trying to get these records for political purposes, they'd have issued this friendly subpoena back in January.
Exactly.
When they gained control of the House. Waiting until Cohen's testimony to attain the records to corroborate his allegations indicates that the investigation is based on substantive legislative concerns and not just political whim. And that was Trump's counsel's William Consovoy's assertion. That's his name, Consovoy.
Okay.
That there is no conceivable constitutional basis on which the documents could be provided because there is no valid legislative purpose for which the information could be needed. That's their whole argument. And this is their argument in a lot of these cases.
I'm noticing that, yeah.
And there, even the letter that Pat Cipollone wrote to Nadler this week, that's in there too. I'll go over that a little bit later in the show. But even though Judge Mehta states that the legal record was fully developed and there's no need for further hearings, briefings, or other considerations, he'd leave the record open until May 18th. That's today, as of this recording, to allow either side to provide any additional evidence they want considered. Consovoy, as if he knew what was coming, told the judge he would appeal a decision against him and asked the judge to stay the Meyers subpoena to allow for the appeal. So he's like, hey, when you rule against my stupid ass, I just want to let you know I'm going to file an appeal. The hearing, I think that's probably common, though.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting move to make.
We're going to appeal this.
Yeah.
The hearings opened with Judge Maida indicating that he would not be ruling from the bench that day, which is what we were kind of hoping for. We thought he'd just rule. He'd be like, all right, you go. All right, here's what I think. But he said that no judge would make such a hasty decision for such a serious case. But on the flip side, he said it's important we expedite the case because it's part of a congressional investigation, citing previous similar cases as precedent. I think he threw 2 or 3 cases out there.
Nice.
Case law, like they do. Consovoy went first and argued that the subpoena is invalid and unenforceable because the committee was trying to engage in a law enforcement action, not a legitimate legislative purpose, and that's not Congress's job. So there.
Oh.
That's his fight.
Does anything say that you can't do that?
He'll get into this.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, spoiler.
In fact, they came up with some pretty funny examples of when it would be inappropriate. But anyway, Cummings outlined his justifications for the subpoena in his April 12th memo to the members of the Oversight Committee, and the judge asked Consovoy to address each one separately then. He's like, all right, go at them one by one. The reasons for the subpoena were to find out if Trump reported his finances accurately to the Office of Government Ethics, to see if Trump is violating the Emoluments Clause in the Constitution, and to find out if Trump has any financial conflicts of interest, mostly in response to Cohen's testimony about Trump's false representation of his financial information. So Consovoy basically argued that there could be no legislative purpose in determining if Trump reported his finances accurately to the Office of Government Ethics. The judge asked him if he's saying there has to be a bill on the table, like legislation on the table, in order for them to request such information. Then asks if Congress isn't supposed to investigate a president, even if he's engaging in corruption. Like, are you not supposed to? Like, even if he's corrupt?
When do you do it then?
Also, I'd love to hear his opinion on Benghazi.
Yeah, totally. And then Consovoy says, yeah, no, you can't. And the judge is like, so we in the courts are supposed to imagine a potential future legislation for them to get these documents? That's dumb as fuck, dude.
Yeah, you need Miss Cleo in there.
I'm paraphrasing. Then Maida asks Consovoy about the Emoluments Clause, and this is some shit right here. The Emoluments Clause basically says that you can't profit personally, financially through the office of the presidency, right? And Cummings is specifically worried about the Trump Hotel in downtown D.C., and how he sold entire floors to, like, the Saudis that were lobbying for him and all kinds of other foreign dignitaries and diplomats spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in that hotel. And wouldn't that be a conflict of interest? Well, Consovoy actually argued that the president's personal financial affairs are beyond the scope of the Emoluments Clause, and that emoluments is a legal thing and not a legislative thing, and therefore beyond the arm of congressional oversight. The judge was like, bro, Congress is actually the only body that can approve emoluments under the Constitution. And how are you supposed to determine if someone's personally, financially benefiting from something if their personal financial affairs are beyond the scope of the Emoluments Clause? What a terrible argument. And I'm not even a fucking lawyer. I'm like, dude, that's the best you could come up with. Not to mention, dude, under your bullshit way of thinking, Whitewater and Watergate would not have been allowed to have been investigated by Congress. Consovoy did not respond to that. But then said instead, Michael Cohen's testimony didn't mention emoluments. That's some legal whataboutism right there.
Yeah, definitely.
This went on for a while, with Consovoy making the same idiot argument and Maida coming back with case law and citing precedent like a boss. Then the House counsel gets up there, Douglas Letter, and he basically says the Congress doesn't need a reason, fuck you. But there are a bunch, and they're outlined clearly in Cummings' memo, and that Trump is arguing that Congress is a nuisance who shouldn't provide oversight, but the Constitution is clear. Then came my favorite part, and this is what you were talking about, Jordan. The judge asked Letter to tell him what might be outside congressional oversight. Like, what can't you investigate? Like, how is this court supposed to determine if what Congress wants jives with the Constitution?
Right.
And Letter said, well, a few things might be outside the scope here, like Terry Schiavo's feeding tube equipment when they asked for that, or a sample of the president's blood, maybe, or if I were asking for his childhood diary. And then says, good thing we're not doing anything like that. Letter said that, not the judge. Finally, the judge asked Letter why Congress needs to know about this shit. Like why they want to know about what the president did before he was president. And Letter says Congress must determine if he's beholden to any foreign interests. For example, if Russia knew he had committed bank fraud and obtained bank loans illegally, they could blackmail him with that. That's just a very vague example that I'm not basing on anything at all. Don't you want a loan?
Totally random.
So put some beans on Judge Maida making a call on this case this week. I think he'll judge this week. Rule. Then we can assume Trump will appeal, which would put the case probably on track for SCOTUS. My hope is that the quickness with which this case was litigated will set an example for other similar cases.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say a big sigh was needed after all that.
We live in such an interesting time, too, where it's like, I mean, obviously, in many ways, interesting, horrifying, take your pick. Either one of those things. But it's like blackmail, potentially being blackmailable is a legitimate reason to investigate somebody. But what's so fucked up is that if it came out, the information that was being held against him, his base wouldn't even care.
True.
Nope.
Good thing they're not in charge of Congress, though.
That would be a better legal argument. That would be, instead of this whole, there's no legislative purpose.
That no one cares.
And the emoluments shouldn't have to do with personal finance. That would be a better legal argument to say, hey, look, he could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and no one cares. He's unblackmailable.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
He really is.
If his base was the jury, yeah, he'd win that.
That would be my defense.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd be like, hey, no, you can't blackmail. You think that no one knows that he fucking had prostitutes pee on a bed, or that you really think that they're going to be able to hold that over his head? He doesn't fucking care.
Yeah.
He paid off, Playboy bunnies. His RNC finance deputy chair got to spent $1.6 million on an abortion. Think of all
Trump
the shit he
would
does.
never let them say that.
He is unblackmailable.
He should be, I guess, by all these standards.
I don't want to give anybody ideas.
Yeah, he still has pride a little bit.
But that would be my legal defense.
Yeah, seriously. Well, yeah, because I mean, it's like the basis of the investigation almost becomes a moot point effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like no one cares.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course we care, and listeners, but you mean like the people that, support him, they don't care at all.
Yeah.
And they probably never will. So
Right.
I'm just hoping that enough people outside of them will care, but I wonder how that'd play in court, though.
Yeah.
It's better if argument than
But myth.
personal finances have nothing to do with personal finances.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because there's so many things that have already come out that Russia probably knew before it came out to the media.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I just
came out, no one cares.
Putin sitting alone like, well, shit. Everyone knows about the porn star payoff.
Yeah.
Can't hold that over his head.
It would have to be something so horrifyingly bad.
Mm-hmm.
Something that would be criminal, like across the board criminal, in which case law enforcement would just get him on those grounds.
Yeah,
if it's within a statute of
they
limitations.
would have buried that evidence for
But like
sure.
even his 12 counts of obstruction of justice are public now, and so you can't even hold that over his head.
Yeah. Let's just hope he forgot about one of the crimes. Yeah.
Mueller?
No, Trump. Like he forgot to hide the evidence. Sorry, I should have been more
Because
clear.
I mean, if the grab him by the pussy tape didn't do anything, the P tape's not going to do anything.
Right.
You know, like.
But let's say there's just evidence out there somewhere, because I'm sure Trump has someone clean up his stuff. If it's not Cohen now, it's
Putin
probably...
goes all out of his way to get that P tape, and then finds out about the pussy tape, and he's like, "Caramba!"
Oh wow, there's two different tapes probably. Yeah, the pussy and the P tape.
For some reason, he says "caramba" to me.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the origins. I was like, what is that missing? Oh, it's an eye.
Ay, caramba.
Yes.
Also this week, guys, Rick Gates' sentencing has been pushed back yet again. And now it's all kind of making sense, because since we got the Mueller report, we've noticed that Gates plays a huge role in the Stone case and the Gregory case. Greg Craig.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a witness in those trials. He didn't do much for the Manafort trial because he's such a piece of shit, but his testimony is important to these cases because it can triangulate the documentary and other witness testimony, right? Also, Gates is a witness in the Greg Craig trial, as I mentioned, one of our Democrat criminals that worked closely with Manafort. In the past, though, Gates' sentencing delays were always for ongoing issues. And remember, we'd always be like, they're still open and ongoing issues. Mm-hmm. Well, now we know what they are. He's involved in the Stone case and the Greg Craig. But we've known since the public release of this, the redacted Mueller report. We can now say what those are. Stone has pleaded not guilty in a trial that begins November 5th on charges of lying to Congress and witness tampering. Greg Craig has pleaded not guilty and faces trial August 12th on charges of lying to the Justice Department about registering as foreign agent. So we all knew that.
Yeah.
We just didn't know those were the cases that Gates' sentence was kept being delayed for.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. Florida apparently just learned it was hacked during the 2016 election.
Mm-hmm.
We knew. And Jaleesa has all that later in Hot Notes.
Oh, yeah.
It was by George Bush back again.
Oh, yeah. They're a little late to the story.
It was Matt Gates. The House Intelligence Committee is now investigating obstruction of justice claims against 4 Trump lawyers. In a letter from the House Intel Chairman Schiff, That committee is investigating whether Trump's lawyer, Jay Sekulow, Jr.'s lawyer, Futerfas, Trump org lawyer Alan Garten, and Jarvanka's lawyer, Abby Lowell, helped obstruct the panel's inquiry into Russian election interference by shaping false testimony. These inquiries stem from Cohen's testimony that these 4 lawyers helped edit his false testimony about the timeline for Trump Tower Moscow and how they dangled pardons to ensure Cohen's loyalty. This letter was written by Schiff on May 3rd and obtained by the New York Times this week. So far, the lawyers have ignored the request, the 4 lawyers, but Schiff says he's prepared to issue a subpoena to compel their cooperation. Heard it. Their argument, of course, is that the request serves no legislative purpose. Heard it. And that Cohen is unreliable. Also heard it. Unfortunately, the committee would have little recourse, whether they got the information or not. If they don't, the lawyers are likely to refuse to comply with the subpoena. If they did, any criminal referral would be made to Barr's Justice Department anyway. The only course of action here beyond the election is an impeachment inquiry.
Which we need to do, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. This is, okay, so legislation technically is defined as... I don't know what it's technically defined as. I mean, my inclination is to say it's some form of, like, delegating who gets what, where, when, how, because that's just generally what politics is. But I'm wondering if, like, impeachment could be considered legislation if they could argue that.
Well, no, because you wouldn't have to argue that anymore, because if you open an impeachment inquiry, then the House becomes a grand jury, and so now it's an investigative branch. They get to get whatever information they need.
I guess I'm wondering if in these court battles, when they're trying to say it doesn't serve a legislative purpose, they could get out of it by saying something like that.
Well, what they did in the Steve IRS subpoena for that is they said the legislative purpose here for the House Ways and Means Committee is to determine if the audits done on presidential and vice presidential taxes on an annual basis are effective and if we need to modify that legislation.
Right.
You could also say we need to determine if we have to write legislation that restricts executive power or thinks differently about the branches. But yeah, that judge was like, do you expect there to be a bill on the table before they can even bring this shit up, or you want me to guess what it could be? And Doug Letter is like, I don't even have to fucking tell you. You don't need a reason. We're the Congress.
Right. Yeah, I like Letter.
I do too.
He's good.
Yeah, I do wish that they could all just be like, there's no legislation involved. We're deciding if someone is fit to be the president of the United States or not.
Yeah, and you could do that with an impeachment inquiry. One of the many reasons one should be open.
Yeah.
Not to mention all this shit will just end up in the same place, in Barr's lap.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
which is what they want for sure.
Of course, that's why they're doing it this way. And speaking of Bill Barr, he has appointed a special friend to investigate the oranges of the Trump investigation this week. That means origins. U.S. attorney from Connecticut was tapped to determine if the government's methods of collecting intelligence were lawful and appropriate. I think his name is Berman or Herman or fuckface. Appropriate, according to the Associated Press. This comes from the AP this week. Barr has accused the FBI of spying on the Trump campaign without providing any evidence of that. And Trump-appointed FBI Director Christopher Wray has testified he hasn't seen no evidence of wrongdoing. I run the FBI. There's no spying. There's also an investigation by the Justice Department's Inspector General into the oranges of the Russia probe. That should be done in May or June, according to Barr. Late Tuesday, Trump Jr. struck a chicken shit deal with a Republican-led Senate Intelligence Committee about whether or not to appear and answer some questions about his previous bullshit testimony about Trump Tower Moscow, along with some questions about the June 2016 Trump Tower meeting. Now, if you remember, last week we were all kind of shocked that Barr, the guy who ran and tattled to Trump after he was briefed by Comey regarding the FBI investigation into Russian interference, signed off on a subpoena to compel Don Jr. to appear before the Senate Intelligence Committee, which he chairs. Amidst backlash from Republicans and Trump Jr. and his stupid friends, the SISI, that's the Select Senate Committee on Intelligence, has now agreed to a private hearing with Jr. about a limited number of issues that can last no more than 2 to 4 hours. We all know that regardless of the testimony, the Senate would not hold Jr. in contempt if he flat out denied a subpoena. So I suppose this is better than nothing.
Yeah, how did he even get this? Like, did he say that he can't do for longer than 4 hours without calling his doctor or something?
Erection. Yeah. It's like, my Viagra. Gotta leave. But I assume this will go nowhere again, because if the Dems on the committee are able to show that Trump lied, which we all know that he did, a criminal referral would go to the Department of Justice, and we're back to where we started. This could all be used, however, as evidence that all avenues were exhausted by Congress to try to get at the truth if any of these or any House subpoenas for Junior ended up in court. Most of these shenanigans could be avoided by opening an impeachment inquiry. Just saying. Just going to say it again.
Yeah, just throwing it out there.
Effectively turning the House judiciary into a grand jury, making it much easier to compel compliance with documentary and testimony subpoenas. One of a zillion reasons to open an impeachment inquiry, including it being Congress's fucking job. But now, Pat Cipollone, White House counsel, has written a letter to Jerry Nadler saying, "You're rubber, I'm glue, anything you subpoena bounces off me and sticks to you."
Yeah.
Just sticking
verbatim,
with,
right?
sticking with their 7-year-old comebacks here. According to the Washington Post this week, the White House lawyer told Nadler that there's no do-overs allowed and that all demands will be refused because Nadler is a duty head.
Oh, it's a fight of the grandpas, man. And it's not to be ageist. It's just like it's true. It's just...
This letter not only broadly rejects all of Nadler's requests for documents and testimony, but argues that Congress has no legitimate purpose to investigate the executive branch. That's right. A lawyer is saying that the legislative branch has no check on the executive branch. Cipollone did not exert executive privilege, walked up to that line but didn't call it, though he said he might consider a narrower request if Nadler could provide the legislative purpose and legal support for the information he's seeking. These are the same arguments we've heard over and over again for refusing to comply with requests for information and subpoenas from Congress. Nadler calls this argument preposterous, saying the White House is making the outrageous claim that the president cannot be held accountable in any way to the American people. This is ridiculous. It would make the president above the law, and of course we totally reject it. We will subpoena whoever we have to subpoena.
That's so good. It's like a little Snoopy and a little Nadler there.
That's how Nadler sounds too.
Yeah.
That's so good. That sounds like a South Park character.
It really does. Like, it's convincing.
My idea, like Kenny.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it.
It's like Cartman when he grows up and starts becoming a civil servant, finally. Stops shitting out of his mouth.
Welcome to the DFD. You just stand in line. Oh, God. Like everyone else.
They should really diversify their defenses, though, because all it takes is one judge to knock one down, and then it's just like a fucking strike.
I think their backs are against the wall. This is like their Hail Mary of a defense, right? They don't really have logic on their side.
For the GOP.
Yeah, totally.
But I think you're saying diversify Nadler's responses.
No. I'm saying the White House counsel. They need to stop giving
their one thing.
Yeah, their broken record.
Their one thing is it doesn't have legislative purpose.
Well, and have you stopped to think like maybe it's not because they actually have an argument? They just want to delay this shit as long as they can.
It's worked so far, right?
Yeah.
Sort of.
Just delay.
Yeah. Stalling is all they want to do.
Spray a delay, walk away.
I'm sure they do have. I'm sure they do have like a list of, I don't know, 5 to 10 maybe
other defenses.
Reasons. Yeah. They're like, that should get us through to the next election, and everyone in due time will forget it all.
I think you're right about that, Joy.
It could possibly be.
Yeah.
My idea here is that Nadler should ask Mueller's colleagues that no longer work in the Department of Justice to testify, specifically Andrew Weissman. Because we've learned this week what might be holding up the Mueller testimony is that blanket assertion of executive privilege over the entire Mueller report. Remember when they did that? The whole thing, even though we've seen most of it.
Right.
That, and as of yesterday, Peter Carr, the spokesperson for Mueller, confirmed that Mueller is still a special counsel and still works for Barr. But reports are now coming out that Barr has something to do with this, and it has something to do with executive privilege.
Okay.
Like, Mueller, you can't testify about your report. The whole report is subject to executive privilege.
That is crazy.
We don't have any, firsthand knowledge of that. Mm-hmm. But despite Barr saying he has no problem with Mueller testifying to Congress, that assertion of executive privilege by the White House seems to be what's holding everything up. We also have to consider that Mueller might still be working, and this might not be true. The Andrew Miller case is still outstanding, and so is the secret company from Country A. Or maybe Mueller's staying there to provide some sort of protection against special counsel's office. But no matter the reason, Weissman no longer works for Barr, and he could testify anytime, and he'd probably be more likely to say some shit than Mueller would.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's just a,
regular guy.
He's not Mueller.
Yeah, Mueller's
just
Mueller.
A guy. I'm just
wild and crazy
guy. Someone was wondering if it's because Mueller wants his pension, but this is Mueller's 24th and 25th year in service, including his service as a Marine. And so he's well earned his pension.
Totally.
Yeah,
and this is just Mueller's character, right? This is just who he is. He's not kiss and tell or indict and tell, or or I guess besides the Mueller report, he's just not someone to come on the trial and just blab. Really.
Well, I think that if he were allowed to testify, he would.
Really?
I don't think Barr's letting him.
I'd love to
he's
see
exerting
it.
executive privilege over it, and of course Mueller can't come out and say, "Hey, it won't let me do it." But he's a rule follower, and that's what you're getting.
Right.
They're also saying though that people like McGahn can't do it, and McGahn can't. This sounds like a Candyman thing.
McGahn can because it mixes it with obstruction and makes the world taste good.
Eat my shit candy.
Nice.
But they're saying that he can't say anything either, and he's not under Barr. He's just a guy,
right? But they are exerting executive privilege over him, and he's going with the White House as opposed to because would you rather go and talk to Congress or just say, "Oh, the president won't let me," and then have them fight your battles? You can't. I don't think you can get in trouble for not coming to testify because the president is exerting something over you. Then that the White House gets in trouble for that.
Exactly. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to go to answer questions in front of Congress.
Yeah, survival, like McCabe was saying, right? Just get it alive.
You could incriminate. You could say something else.
People will hate you just for being there.
You don't want to do that shit.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Get Weissman in there though. That's my new thing. Weissman now. # Weissman now. Bombshell revelation in the Flynn case this week. I'm going to cover that in hot notes. And finally this week, as expected, Steve and the IRS are refusing to comply with a subpoena from the House Ways and Means Committee chair to hand over Trump's taxes. This will likely now go to court unless the committee decides to hold Steve and the IRS Commissioner Charles Rettig in contempt. I personally think they should and fine them $25,000 a day, and then go to court where Congress would surely win based on longstanding precedent. And it's the law that the IRS and the Treasury must hand over tax returns when asked for them by the chair of House Ways and Means. And you can't use the legislative thing here for sure because it doesn't matter what the purpose is for this. It's written into the law.
Oh, nice.
So you can't be like, well, what's the purpose? It doesn't fucking matter.
You're saying it just says that that the IRS has to give that stuff over to Congress.
They shall, and the reason is not important.
Yeah, Perfect. But that is what he's trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I think he's throwing that in everything. That's why he'd win the court case. But we'll keep you posted on how that turns out. I think I have a feeling. But anyway, we'll be right back with abortion rights, Florida, and Flynn in hot notes after this quick word. AG here to tell you about my new favorite shoes, Rothy's. Rothy's look good, they feel good, they're sustainable, and they are literally the most comfortable shoes that I own. Rothy's come in a wide range of colors and patterns, and they're available in 4 styles: the flat, the point, the loafer, and the sneaker. They transition beautifully from work to cocktails. I can wear them with yoga pants, leggings, skirts, dresses, jeans, suits at work. And they launch new colors every week, and they sell out constantly. I have one of each of the styles, all in black, because that's my thing, and I wear them everywhere. They pack well, they're breathable, they're machine washable, and they go with everything. The best part for us is that Rothy's are made from recycled plastic water bottles, and to date, they've diverted over 25 million water bottles from landfills and oceans. They're manufactured in a zero-waste factory, and they ship direct in the box, so there's no packaging waste. You'll quickly realize why BuzzFeed calls them their forever shoes. Jaleesa, you wear yours everywhere.
I do, and they make everything I wear look so cute. I have like these leopard print loafers, and I just love them. I feel fancy no matter what I'm wearing, and they're so comfortable.
Jordan, you wear yours at work?
I do, yeah. When I used to serve, I'd wear them all the time. They're the best, and now I just wear them around all the time forever because they're versatile. They go with all your different kinds of outfits. I get the black ones too, I'm like you, and truly the most comfortable slip-ons I've ever had.
Yeah, it has to help they're machine washable too, especially as a server, because you just always are dumping junk all over them. At least I was when I was doing that.
Totally.
And today, Rothy's has an amazing deal for our listeners. Use code AG to get free shipping with no minimums. Free shipping, free returns and exchanges on your Rothy's shoe, but trust me, you will not want to return them. Go to rothys.com, that's ROTHYS.com, and enter AG to get your new favorite flats and free shipping. All right, welcome back. Hot notes. All right, guys, it's time for Hot Notes. And as you know, we have stories this week about Flynn and the Florida elections being hacked because we are a podcast about Mueller and the Russian election interference. However, this week, reproductive rights are under attack in an unprecedented way that I cannot ignore in good conscience. I can't not talk about this, and neither can you guys, so neither can you not. It's that important. We've had this happen a couple of times in the history of the show where some things have went down that we're like, we can't.
Yeah, like family separations was one of them.
Yeah, we
and
can't ignore
shithole
these
countries.
things.
And yeah, I'm like, I can't not talk about this. And Jordan, you have that story.
I do, yes. So it's been a really shitty week, obviously, like we talked about at the top of the show. It's just been awful. It's been a horrendous week for women's reproductive rights, as well as the doctors and allies that serve them in the name of those rights. So it's just been really bad for everybody. CNN did a really good piece today outlining everything that's gone down across the country at this point and where all of those laws stand as of now. So here we go. Brace yourself and get some cotton balls for when this makes your ears bleed, because it is awful. Number one, Alabama passed the most restrictive abortion ban, saying that it is disallowed in all cases, even in cases of incest and rape. And doctors who perform any abortions could be sentenced up to life in prison. And Alabama's law is supposed to go into effect in November. Then Georgia, Kentucky, Ohio, and Mississippi have all got heartbeat bills signed into law, which means basically that abortions are banned after the point that a heartbeat is detected, which can be a time before many women even know that they're pregnant, and it's around 6 weeks is around at that time period.
Yeah, and how does HIPAA factor into all this? Because how is anyone investigating me going to know when my fetal heartbeat started without violating HIPAA?
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
I don't think they even mentioned that in many of the articles I've seen.
No. Yeah, I haven't seen anything that goes into any specifics like that right now. It's just like, this is awful.
Just generally fucked up.
Yeah. The slightly good news, also I had a Freudian slip like 30 seconds ago. I said adoptions instead of abortions.
Yeah, you're thinking Russian adoptions there.
I know. Yeah, Russian adoptions, exactly.
I once accidentally said abortion scare instead of pregnancy scare.
Yeah.
Oh, we've been there too.
Totally put you on, out of like knowing which side I was on.
Yeah, I just want to make it very clear. Very pro-choice. That was not some subliminal message.
Right.
But the slightly good news about these states is that Ohio and Mississippi, their bans are being challenged in the courts right now, and the Kentucky bill was already blocked by a federal judge. Then we have Missouri, which passed a bill that's similar to the heartbeat bill in those other states, and that doctors that help in any cases will also be punished as they are in Alabama, but the sentencing guidelines are less intense than they are in Alabama, but they could still get over a decade in prison. And,
yeah, just only a decade.
Yeah. And now...
So rapists get 6 months.
Right.
I mean, that's still a lot more
But
than
the
they normally
doctor
get.
who helps you get rid of the baby that the rapist put inside of you, 99 years or a decade.
Over yeah.
It's insanity.
Yeah. And there are now 11 other states with similar heartbeat legislation in the works. So this is a total seemingly coordinated wave of regression going through the country right now. And terrifying is truly an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
I think ultimately their goal is to get Roe v. Wade overturned. Obviously, that looks like it's where it's heading. But what this really translates to is all this stuff is going to pass in their legislative parties, right? And then it's going to go to the courts, and it's going to take a long time. But that's a huge battle that's going to be coming up, and is also going to be a huge issue for 2020.
It's a giant issue for 2020, and that's why voting is so important. Because right now, no lower court they can't allow these bills to go forward under current law. They just cannot. Only the Supreme Court can overturn Roe v. Wade in these cases. And like you said, that could take years. That's why we have to take the Senate and the White House so we can write laws upholding protections for abortion. Mm-hmm. And so we can ensure that future Supreme Court justices aren't assholes.
Exactly.
And even perhaps add 3 judges to the SCOTUS and appoint them ourselves.
Just a thought. Yeah.
Don't decide not to vote because you don't like everything about whoever wins the Democratic nomination. We need your vote. Everyone who has a uterus needs your vote, particularly people of color who seem to be more under attack by these laws. If you don't vote and Trump wins and Roe v. Wade is overturned, I will squarely blame everyone who decided not to vote. So don't do that.
Same.
But yeah, you're totally right. This is horrendous. They'll all be blocked. It'll go to the Supreme Court. One of them will make it.
Yeah.
They just need one. That's the sad thing, yeah.
I feel so blindsided because out of nowhere, it was just, or at least in my purview, out of nowhere, it was just boom, 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 one state after the other. And it's like, what the hell? I had no idea that was coming.
Yeah, if I had to guess, and I don't really know much myself, but it feels like a Tea Party kind of issue that might have rooted when Obama was elected.
Well, they've been gerrymandering and trying to steal House and state assemblies and governorships for a while. This has been a couple of decades in the making. And so that was the setup for this, to get at least, you might not be able to get half the states that have Republican Senate, Republican House, and Republican governor, but enough to make it look like the majority of Americans think this way, which is what you brought up the other day in one of our daily episodes for patrons, was that, you know, because we were talking about how Chief Justice Roberts tends to not rule against the zeitgeist, like what the people want, like for example the gay marriage stuff, and you know he might be this sort of conservative guy, but he's not going to go against the public wave of opinion.
Exactly.
And so Republicans for decades now trying to make it seem like the majority of America, you know, if we get 22 states on board, if we can cheat, how do we do that? Well, we got to gerrymander and cheat. And then, you know, maybe get Russia involved and get the NRA to fund us.
I think it's been a long time coming for a lot of these issues.
All to do this. All to just, and it's not because they care about life. It's because they want to control women.
Yeah, it's almost like a new world order.
Or people with uteruses, I should say.
Yeah, it's like an old world order, too. They want to bring back what it used to be.
What is plural for uteri?
Uteri, I would imagine.
I'm going to call them uteri.
Jesus, I don't know. Jesus's. I never knew that one, so.
That's my joke.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was like, how do I think about that? Like, where did that come from?
Where did that come from? It came from an AG comedy set.
Yes, AG's in my head, guys.
Well, that is just, thank you for covering that stuff. It's
crazy.
Yeah. And I'm going to read a Twitter thread later at the end of the show that kind of, actually I'm going to read it now, because it really kind of, when I read it, it really put into perspective. It said a lot of things that I was feeling, particularly about this kind of stuff. Her name is Julia Peacock. She was running for California 42 against Calvert, I think, incumbent Republican. I think she's running again in 2020. And she put out this thread, and it's been retweeted a bazillion times, and it's absolutely fantastic. And she says, "Dear whoever is listening, we are so tired. Tired of hearing you talk on and on about his crimes, then doing almost nothing about it. We're tired of Twitter platitudes that lack substance, heart, or a plan. We're tired of hearing the same thing on the news every night, only to wake up the next day to some new insanity while we hear you utter the same hollow refrains. We're tired of the blue wave that has left merely a puddle under our shoes that quickly blends in with the shadows of the treachery that is this traitorous leadership of our democracy. We're tired of pundits and experts who repeat what we already learned, that another day has passed into history with no action or recourse for our fears. We're tired of trying to explain to our daughters why, no matter how hard we rage against the dying of the light, that we haven't done enough to ensure the courts will be fair to them as they grow into adulthood and inherit this mess we've created. We're tired of hearing from those who believed him only to find 2 years later that they didn't realize he was lying, and oh my, how he's hurt me. So now I actually care and want to take back my vote. We're tired of marching and protesting and petitioning and signing and hearings and reports and the rot of evidence you have before you that you won't do anything productive with. We're tired of your whimpering and simpering and we can't do this because of his base that leaves us hollow and heartbroken. We're tired of trying to explain why all of this is so damn dangerous and potentially irreversible while you beg for patience. We're tired of being polite and turning the other cheek and going high against racists and liars and thieves and power-hungry zealots who just want us to know our place. We're tired of trying to do more with less at home, in school, at work, and everywhere in our lives while you keep getting paid and have insurance and travel for free on our dime. Did I mention we're tired? But do not misunderstand. We are tired, but we are not done. See, we are watching you. We are remembering your promises and your vows to protect us and fight for us, and to not go gentle into that good night. We remember. We are going to remember so much more of what you said that you do but didn't, what you promised but ignored. Our feet are sore, our hearts are heavy, and we are wondering how much more we can handle and how many more mountains we can climb and how much longer we can stand and wait for you to do what we have been counting on you to do. We are tired, but we will fight on, and for every one of us who loses their way and cannot take another single step, 5 more of us will take their place. But you owe it to us, the tired, the poor, the huddled masses yearning to breathe free, to do your jobs, to protect our democracy and our Constitution, to hold the lawbreakers and cheats accountable. Now, right now, no more obfuscating, no more placating. Do your jobs.
I mean, that is summed up so perfectly. Who was that again?
That is Julia Peacock.
Julia Peacock?
California 42nd
wow.
candidate for Congress.
Wow.
Yes, Congress.
Those are one of those like audacity of hope speeches. That kind of hits
good,
for Twitter.
right?
That's
I'm at the end.
No, really, I felt it.
When she's like, 5 more will take their place. I'm like, yes, we will.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Sorry about that. No feelings, no emotions.
No feelings.
I am a stone. Jaleesa, let's pivot a little bit, talk for a second about the 2 Florida counties that were breached by Russia.
Yeah. It's so funny how this is a lighter topic.
Yeah. Moving on to the lighter side of the news, Russians hacked our elections, and now there's proof.
Oh, my goodness. So this week we learned from Politico and the Washington Post that in 2016, 2 Florida voter registration databases were breached by the Russian government group GRU, and they were spearphished. As many of you know, this is the same Russian spy agency that hacked the DNC servers that same year. In response, the election supervisor in one of those counties, Carol Rudd, said, quote, "If each agency gets suspicious of the other's ability to follow the rules of confidentiality, then those tenuous lines of communication quickly break down. That would set our security capabilities back years and severely compromise our ability to protect our elections. And that would be a big win for the Russians going into 2020. So it sounds like she understands how serious this breach is, but she also is concerned that if she goes around blabbing about the details of the breach to just anyone, that it will put the agencies in even more turmoil. On the other hand, Florida Secretary of State Ken Detzner said that while he was legally prohibited from commenting on the breach, he added that, quote, "The citizens deserve and have a right to know important things with regard to their election security." He also said that over enough time, it'll eventually come out anyways. So as a result of all of this, Florida's congressional members are pushing for a change in legislation regarding election breach notifications. Currently, the law states that federal agents are not obligated to disclose information about cyber attacks as soon as they occur. Obviously, many people are not happy about that. In fact, Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy said, quote, "It is untenable to continue to hold this information classified and not let the public know. This chaotic drip-drab of information that is coming out of this is doing more harm to constituents' faith in our electoral system." However, the FBI believes that voters in those counties have no right to that information because they claim the victims are the counties themselves rather than the individual voters. They even made the governor of Florida sign an NDA saying that he wouldn't go public with the info he got from his FBI briefing on Thursday.
This is the FBI that's saying all this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And so
I think that's a lie, though.
Well, maybe.
I think DeSantis is lying about that.
That's very possible. Basically, lawmakers disagree with this entire process. They say even Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz, who we mentioned earlier, he said this is ridiculous and that the victims in the cases are not the government office holders, but rather the voters. So, wow, we agree with Matt Gaetz on something.
Well, it's everyone.
Yeah.
Because everyone is a voter.
Right.
And
so I guess in that case, he
but their justification for not telling anyone, only the victims can tell.
Right.
If
I'm just
they're,
I see what you're saying, Jordan.
It's not like just more.
It's like,
are
you in traffic or are you in traffic? Right.
Yes.
I get what you're saying.
We're all in this. We're all being screwed over together. Is all I'm saying.
The FBI, for some reason, though, is saying that the counties themselves are not the voters. Like they're being very semantic about this, saying the county has to come out themselves, basically.
They're designating them as the only victims in this.
Totally. And some people are saying the FBI is kind of right. I don't know who these people are, but some people, apparently experts, say it's not their place to out the victims. It's anonymous experts. So maybe it's the FBI doing their own quotes. So the root of the whole argument seems to be whether or not the FBI is overclassifying the information regarding the breach. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think they are.
I mean, as of now, if you told me to explain to you what happened, I couldn't tell you other than that I know that
we were hacked, right?
Yeah.
And I think
I'd like to know the specifics of that. So then as a activist and citizen, I can tell my congressman to look out, and women, to look out for certain things, I guess.
And on top of that, I think another argument was that we already know about spear phishing. Like we've already had articles that have publicly explained what it is, or in terms of like what Russia's doing. So for them to say that they can't talk about it, it's already been talked about in other contexts. So we just want to know which counties specifically were hacked in Florida, and they don't want to tell anybody.
Yeah.
So that's just weird to me. It's like,
local citizens need to be able to lobby their representatives accurately.
But we did find out one of them is Washington County.
Oh, okay. That confused me. I was like, Washington, but that's in Florida. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up.
So, that was the follow-up that I sent you.
Cool. I did see that.
They found out it was Washington
County was one of them. We still don't know the other. I wonder if it's Broward. Oh, that's a weird county. Okay. Anyways, that's my high note.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
You are our election protection selection.
Yes, I'm
for
on it.
Reporting on the news.
You heard it here first. We're getting hacked, guys.
Election security.
It's happening.
You heard it here first 2 years ago.
I understand the sentiment behind saying that the trust citizens have in the electoral process might go down when this information comes up, but is it not going down even more when you're telling me, hey, you might not trust us after the thing we're not going to tell you happened? It's like, well, now I'm just losing both in both ways.
Yeah.
And should we trust an untrustworthy system? Should we forget about the reservoir of trust?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Should we trust an untrustworthy system?
No, that's a very good point.
I get it. You don't want to, the whole goal of Russia was for us to lose faith in our democratic process.
Mission accomplished.
But
as was Maria Butinez.
Mm-hmm. Right. But
Yeah.
what should you just, let's just not tell them and everything will be fine.
Right, right. And the FBI, with all of their, controversies going on, you think they would maybe bend the rules a little, but I guess this is just who they are. They're like, even when we're facing fire, they're going to stick to their guns and say, well, in the law, it says...
Well, this is Trump's FBI, too. All of Comey's 5, everybody who we really liked in the FBI is gone.
You're so right. I forgot about that. That's a big deal. Yeah.
They must be able to come up with some statement, though, that divulges something more than what's already been divulged and
just
wouldn't
something.
fall under, revealing too much.
Leak that shit.
Was it, I think Trevor Noah or someone said, leak the Mueller report. Like, how is it so hard? Like, apparently Nick Cage could, steal the, declaration. Granted, it's a movie, but yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. If there are people that are going to be like, oh, I don't trust these voting systems, so I'm not going to vote, those people already exist currently. I don't think that there's much that's going to come out of specifics. I'll be like, okay, well, that's too much.
Yeah.
It's already generally known that our electoral system is weak, apparently.
We knew that before the hacking. Yeah. I just want to know how weak. How weak tea is this? Yeah.
Yeah, it is important information. I hope it gets out. I hope that somebody figures out what the fuck is going on. But
yes,
I
Cage,
feel
we're looking
like
at you.
I feel like DeSantis and Trump's FBI and the White House are sort of
in on it,
blocking this from happening.
That
because
sounds
they
like them.
need Russian interference in order to win 2020.
Yeah, and it's kind of like everyone underneath DeSantis that's like, hey, this is wrong, and he's just like, oh well. He's the only one that got the full briefing.
Yeah, I was told not to say anything. I don't believe you.
They subpoenaed
Although
me.
there have been some FBI people who have said, that's actually pretty common, where you read somebody in a skiff and you tell them you can't talk about it.
That's what I was thinking. I was just hoping that maybe they would at least change their rules a bit in this case, but
yeah, but again, then this is Trump's FBI who's making them sign an
so
NDA.
It's even more concerning in that sense. Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for that. Real depressing. Okay. All right, let's go back to Attorney General Barr's confirmation hearing. Remember all those years ago? When he told the Senate Judiciary Committee that it would be illegal for a president to coach a witness or persuade a witness to change testimony. This was before he released the Mueller report with his specified redactions to Congress and the public, and before he decided himself to rule that the president had not obstructed justice, and now we might know what have motivated at least some of those redactions. In a newly unredacted court filing from prosecutors related to Flynn's sentencing, Mueller's team has revealed that one of the things Flynn told special counsel was Trump and his allies tried to thwart the investigation by reaching out to Flynn to suborn perjury after Flynn's lawyer backed out of the joint defense agreement and after Flynn started cooperating.
Makes sense.
Quote, the defendant informed the government of multiple instances, both before and after his guilty plea, whether he or his attorneys received communications from persons connected to the administration or Congress that could have affected both his willingness to cooperate and the completeness of the cooperation. The defendant even provided a voicemail recording of one such communication. The voicemail, now we know, comes from John Dowd, right after Flynn pulled out of the joint defense agreement, which was one of the major clues we received early on that Flynn was getting ready to flip, right? I'm like, oh, they pulled out of the joint defense agreement, he's going to flip, and then bam, he flipped, right? Those were some big beans we had back in the day. Flynn's attorney returned the call November 23rd, 2017. That's 3 weeks after we started our podcast. To acknowledge the receipt of the voicemail and said they are no longer in a position to share information under any sort of privilege. And apparently Dowd was indignant and vocal in his disagreement. I am not surprised. Remember when we were reading, I can't remember what book it was, but the meetings between Dowd, was it Fear?
It
The
sounds
meetings
like
between
Fear
Dowd
or Russian Roulette, one of those.
and
I was
Mueller.
thinking Russian Roulette, but I don't. Yeah.
There were a lot of meetings in these books, man.
No, I think it was Fear between
Was it
Dowd
Fear?
and Mueller, where Dowd's like, "Come on, you fucker, we're helping, we're doing everything we fucking can."
Yeah, Fear.
I do remember
that.
that.
Sounds like
Yeah.
a Fear-like story.
Yeah, yeah. A Fear quote right there.
It was a Fear
That
quote
was all
for
the
sure.
juicy stuff in that book.
This newly unsealed portion of the filing also details Flynn's efforts to help Mueller in the WikiLeaks email dump operation, saying Flynn, quote, provided statements made in 2016 by senior campaign officials that included the possibility of reaching out to WikiLeaks. So that's probably some more of the proof that allowed Mueller to draw the conclusion that they were willing and able to accept this help in the Trump campaign.
Definitely.
And that they knew it would help their chances of winning. Dems in Congress are using this filing as an example of why they need the underlying evidence from the report and not just the unredacted report itself.
Okay.
This speaks volumes to our ongoing questions about why Trump allies never once said anything negative about Flynn, despite publicity or publicly attacking other cooperating witnesses like Cohen, right? He always was kind to Manafort and Flynn, but not Cohen and some of the other folks.
Oh, poor Cohen.
The Washington Post reported this week that when Dowd left a voicemail, he was trying to learn whether Flynn had any problematic information about the president after his lawyers signaled they might be cooperating with Mueller, namely by pulling out of that joint defense agreement.
Right.
So now we have Barr, who has admitted a few times that this kind of behavior is classic obstruction of justice. Not just in his confirmation hearing, which I mentioned, but in his 4-page bullshit memo where he said, quote, obviously the president and any other official can commit obstruction in the classic sense of sabotaging a proceeding's truth-finding function. So Barr got the report, redacted the Flynn stuff, refuses to supply the underlying evidence, and then says he doesn't see any obstruction of justice. And now the Mueller prosecutors decide to release publicly the previously redacted evidence showing how Flynn provided cooperation in previous sentencing memos. So this unredacted material, this isn't from the Mueller report. These unredacted pages are Mueller's lawyers basically making a court filing in the Flynn sentencing case with all. Do you remember the old Flynn sentencing memo with all the redacted parts? That's this.
That's so interesting. I didn't realize it was going to come from there.
Yeah. So this isn't what's in the Mueller report. This is something
Side
totally
note,
different.
I feel like Flynn and Stone should do a sitcom called The Flynn-Stones. That's all. That's all. I'm done.
Flynn-Stone. Meet Flynn-Stone.
And they're just both behind bars, just
yeah.
talking to each other.
Modern obstructing family.
Yeah.
So this filing.
Cheer baloney? Sorry.
Oh no, I love it.
Whoop, 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 whoop. The filing says Flynn received communications from people connected to the administration and Congress. And Matthew Miller, a former Justice Department spokesperson who we've had on as a guest, says these revelations make clear just how important it is that Congress get all of the materials underlying the Mueller report. We already know that one of Trump's attorneys had tried to dissuade Flynn from cooperating, but the news that someone connected to Congress did so raises questions for both Congress's own internal ethics processes and for the public. We need to know who it was and what they did. Unquote. I have beans on Nunes, considering he tweeted about being in constant contact with Flynn. And remember that he was meeting with a group of congressional Republicans in secret to strategize how to fight the Mueller investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Remember those little secret Mickey Mouse Club fucking meetings that he was having? Down in the deep halls of Congress or whatever. I fucking hate that guy. These revelations are hugely, hugely important. First, they give Congress a huge leg to stand on in the fight for the full report and the underlying material. This could also be the catalyst for opening an official impeachment inquiry, hint, hint, though that's not to say we didn't have enough already. But this is clear obstruction, deserving of further scrutiny that has come outside the Mueller report, or at least bits we've been allowed to see. So Barr's cloudy bullshit release of the report isn't a consideration here. This is new information that equates to the same article of impeachment against Nixon, quote, approving, condoning, acquiescing in, and counseling witnesses with respect to the giving of false or misleading statements to lawfully authorized investigative officers and employees of the United States and false or misleading testimony in duly instituted judicial and congressional proceedings.
Long way to say witness tampering, right?
Yeah. Liar! But now Barr's redactions should be under severe scrutiny because this is clearly something he was trying to hide. Not only that, but this direct evidence calls into question Barr's conclusions that there was no obstruction. And since it doesn't come from the Mueller report, it's a brand new thing we just got. This is what you could use to open an impeachment inquiry.
Because they don't have executive privilege over this, right?
Right.
Nice.
hasn't been exerted. This is just the Flynn sentencing memo that the Mueller's team,
coincidentally,
we're going
just whip together.
publish this unredacted.
So smart. It's like chess.
And so, if somebody was like, oh, we've had the Mueller report for weeks. Why now, Nancy Pelosi? Why are you opening an impeachment inquiry now? Well, this is completely separate from that. So
nice.
Now you can do it.
Nancy, if you're listening.
So do it now.
That is still a good question, though. You should have done that shit long ago.
Yes.
Well, yeah. So
but now they could question why you waited.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
We were reading it. The kicker to all this is that Judge Emmett Sullivan released 2-minute orders this week in Flynn's case. And remember, Sullivan is the judge that warned Flynn multiple times in a sentencing hearing last December that he'd do well not to be sentenced right today, but rather he should just go home, try to cooperate a little more.
Be a good boy.
For his own good. And during that hearing, he also asked Mueller's team if they'd consider charging Flynn with treason. Yeah. Remember that? And he walked it back a little bit. Sullivan has ordered, though, that the portions of the Mueller report related to Flynn be unredacted and released to the public, along with the voicemail from Dowd and the transcripts of Flynn's conversations with Kislyak during the transition. So this Flynn memo that had nothing to do with the Mueller report has come out now, and it has prompted Judge Sullivan to say, all right, well, then I want everything in the Mueller report about Flynn unredacted and released to the public. And those... and not, again, that voicemail, he wants the public to have that, and those Kislyak transcripts, where those are the conversations that he lied about having, remember? And this is the first time a federal judge has ordered unredacted portions of the Mueller report be released to the public. We know Amy Berman, Judge Jackson if you're nasty, ordered that the Justice Department furnish unredacted portions to her related to Stone's case, but Sullivan here is releasing it to all of us.
Yeah, can he do that?
Yes.
How?
He's a judge.
But someone can appeal that before it gets released, can't they?
I don't know. I don't know, because this is procedural.
That seems
it's
too
not
easy.
It's
I'm
not a hearing.
skeptical. I forgot that needed another syllable. I'm skeptic.
I like the suspense.
They might file an injunction or file an appeal or a motion to obstruct that thing.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard about this anywhere. But I wonder if this could affect the BuzzFeed FOIA suit, where you remember when Judge Reggie Walton reserved the right to look under the redactions to determine whether Barr's redactions were appropriate or not. This could have BuzzFeed now could file a suit to say, oh, it appears that the Flynn shit is bullshit. We should look under those redactions.
Yes.
And Walton might do that. So.
Oh, I love it. I really want to see Trump's lawyers have a Freudian slip in court and be like, I object.
That would be fun. Yes,
That'd be
of course
great.
you do. All right, cool, guys. We'll be right back in a second. Blah, blah.
That's great.
Blah. We'll be right back. Hey, this is AG, and I want to talk to you about the overall health and well-being I've experienced using Noom. Getting in shape is not just about losing weight. It's about learning healthier habits you can stick to and feeling better, whether it's having more energy, being in tune with your body's needs, or practicing a more fulfilling approach to self-care. Noom is not a diet. It's a habit-changing solution that helps users develop a healthy relationship with food, exercise, and self-image. Noom is based in psychology, and it gives you the tools you need to overcome obstacles and irrational thoughts that we associate with bad habits. I started using Noom about 5 months ago, and I love it. My goal initially was to learn how to moderate, because I tend to have an all-or-nothing approach to health. So I would severely restrict myself for 8 weeks, go to the gym 6 days a week, lose a bunch of weight, then I would stop and not do anything and gain it all back. And that kind of up and down is really bad for my heart. But Noom helped me stop feeling shame about having a burrito and understanding that eating cake once in a while doesn't wreck the whole year. And best of all, it's convenient and it saves me time. I used to have to use a different app for logging meals, one for logging exercise, another one for counting steps, another one for nutrition, another one for support. But with Noom, it's all there in one app, and it only takes about 10 minutes a day. So in the first few months, I lost about 17 pounds, and that's because of the tricks and tips I learned about how to moderate and have a better relationship with food, and I've been able to keep it off now. Jordan, you've been using Noom too.
Yeah, it's really helped me kind of see. I love little exercises that the app has you do every day. You have to go through these little readings and quizzes, and it's very helpful information that no other app is going to give you, really. Stuff about what kinds of foods do what for your body, stuff that's not just related to losing weights. It's a very comprehensive program that they put together.
Yeah, and I actually learned about intermittent fasting. I hadn't heard of it before, and it actually turns out that that's the best way for me to eat. It's the most convenient way for me to eat, and it's really helped my health and energy. So And they have a goal specialist and community support, too, and it's helpful to me when I'm having those all-or-nothing moments. And now I have more energy. I feel better wearing my clothes. I'm not afraid of falling off track either because, again, they take away that all-or-nothing thing. So Noom is designed for results. It's out with the old habits and in with the new, so sign up for your trial today at Noom, Noom.com/AG. What do you have to lose? Visit Noom.com/AG to start your trial today. Again, that's Noom.com/AG. Start losing weight for good. All right, you guys ready for sabotage?
Yes.
All right, guys, just when you thought the Flynn story couldn't get any weirder, we have now learned that after Flynn started cooperating, he reached out to Congressman Matt Gaetz and encouraged him to continue to bash Mueller and fight the investigation. That's according to CNN, who somehow obtained these messages, which were sent as DMs on Twitter. He sent a couple of messages, Flynn did to Gaetz, saying, "You stay on top of what you're doing. Your leadership is so vital for our country now. Keep the pressure on." That message was sent in April of 2018. The same evening, Gaetz appeared on Fox News, sharply criticizing the Mueller investigation, like within the hour of that happening. Gaetz said he did not respond. The second message Flynn sent was a gif of a bald eagle and then an American flag that Flynn sent to Gaetz the day Barr was confirmed. This shows that Flynn could have been vacillating back and forth during his cooperation about whether he wanted to cooperate or not, and this could complicate matters for Flynn during sentencing. But it also could show that maybe some of that reach out from lawyers in the Trump sphere when Dowd left that message and dangled those pardons and said, we're on your side, bro. That might have made him waver a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
In December 2018, during that Sullivan sentencing hearing, Sullivan expressed skepticism that Flynn had accepted responsibility for his crimes. And so this is not going to play well with him. And this seems to be separate from anything in the Mueller report or the Flynn memo. I have doubts that Mueller knew anything about this. And this is also separate from, that's Beans, by the way, I don't know.
Right.
But this is also separate from the members of Congress mentioned in the filing unsealed this week in the Flynn case in that memo. According to Asha Rangappa, while this might not be illegal, it could cast doubt on Flynn's guilty plea and explains why Trump was so comfortable with Flynn and not someone like Cohen. This seems like a campaign for a pardon, and now, much like Manafort, Flynn could be perceived as having been disingenuous in his cooperation with Mueller.
Wow.
Because of these messages. The major question remains, who leaked these to CNN? Is it Flynn trying to elude the truth and get out in front of it? Or my theory, what if it's Gaetz trying to discredit Flynn as a witness?
Oh, that's so like Gaetz and less like Flynn.
In the upcoming Stone trial.
Yeah.
Some have asked if it was Flynn trying to bait Gaetz as part of the investigation. Like maybe Mueller's like, text your buddies and see who answers.
Yeah.
That seems weird, though. Either way, I'm dying to know how CNN got their hands on these Twitter messages.
He's the master gate baiter. That's not going to work.
He's a Gaetz
master
baiter.
Gates baiter, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I like that, Gaetz baiter.
So silly.
It is, but it's funny.
I like it too.
And super sabotage. Okay. Do we have a song for super sabotage? Maybe just regular sabotage?
Yeah,
sped up.
just a little more umph on it. Yeah, pizzazz.
Put some stank on it. Today, a Republican congressman for the first time from Michigan's 3rd District, Justin Amash, has just tweeted a thread like an hour ago saying Trump has engaged in impeachable conduct.
Oh.
It begins.
Yes.
This is the first guy to jump ship.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Yes, he says, here are my principal conclusions. 1, Attorney General Barr has deliberately misrepresented the Mueller report. 2, President Trump has engaged in impeachable conduct. 3, partisanship has eroded our system of checks and balances. And 4, few members of Congress have read the report.
Thank God.
Seriously.
Fucking Christ.
What's this
How
guy's name
fucking
again?
hard is that to do?
Justin Amash. He came in on the 2010 Tea Party wave. He's a super libertarian Tea Party guy.
Yeah, Joe Walsh is the guy that's on Twitter and now is like this beacon of light on my news feed.
Damn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He's still a douche, but yeah.
I do want to give mad props where props are due.
That.
I know like some people are going to say don't give people credit for like doing what they should, but it takes a lot for someone with that kind of mentality to flip it. You know, it's like these are their like core values, and Trump just pushed them to the limit. So I really do commend him.
Well, they also jumped on a very specific bandwagon as Tea Partiers, and this was not part of it.
Good
So.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, and he said, he goes on for the in this thread. You should look it up. It's Justin Amash. He's written this. It's going everywhere. It's going viral. But he said, look, I read the report. And this is some fucked up shit, and this isn't what I signed up for. And these are I think Trump has committed impeachable offenses, particularly in Volume 2 under the obstruction of justice stuff. And wow, for a Republican congressman to come forward and say that.
Big
because
beans.
once one, the first one is always the hardest to tip over.
Yeah.
Right?
After that, Romney might come around with some harder stances. He might be more
He's
than
a
disappointed.
senator. He's a senator.
Good point.
Well, and I bet he didn't come up with that in a vacuum. He's probably been talking to his other colleagues and peers, and they're like, "This is fucked up, right? I'm not
Good
crazy."
point,
And they're
That's
like,
a really good
this
point.
is fucked up.
I don't think he would just
Okay,
go
I'm gonna
out
say
on
it.
that limb without having...
Test the waters. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we shall see what hot notes we'll have in the next few weeks about Republicans coming out. Yeah.
Dude, and then also like fucking Tommy Lauren on Twitter this week.
Yes, with the reproductive stuff.
Yes, coming out against that shit. It's like,
I mean,
dude,
it's common sense, but also thank you for being.
Yes.
Yeah, and at first I was afraid she was doing it because she thought it was too extreme to pass SCOTUS, which is what that Pat Robertson guy was basically saying. But no, she was actually saying this is too far.
She's saying people are not going to stop getting abortions. They're just going to find other unsafe ways to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. What?
Damn.
it feels good to let these people in, you know?
I agree.
Like,
Come
come
through the fold.
keep chasing this feeling and
Yeah.
come over to our side and fucking
and
stop being
she's not
you.
like a completely evil person. I totally have a lot of problems with her, but even there was this rapper who made a video where he referenced like problems he had with her, and she said, well, you did reference killing me, but I would like to talk to you.
Oh my god.
Yeah, she's been a little more open. Maybe it's just recently, but who knows?
Well,
I don't want
like
to give
that
too
no matter
much.
who you are.
Yeah,
Talk
yeah.
about
It
killing
could be
you.
just a whole stunt to switch sides and
I
be more
wonder.
popular.
I wonder.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care. Switch sides, come over here,
Whatever
be
it takes.
popular.
Well,
I
it's
don't
important because
fucking
you're a
care.
mouthpiece.
Yeah.
You're an influencer.
That's all
That's
she-
why it's important.
Right.
yes.
That's all she is just someone that's found out what she needs to say and how she needs to say it to like make money. So the fact that she said something like that
For
that potentially
good,
would
that's
make her less money.
incredible.
There's
yeah.
more money over here, Tommy. Come over here.
That's
If it's
true,
money,
dude.
you won't. Yeah.
That's so true. You ever heard of Bill Gates?
That's true. Yeah, but we got
Oh.
Soros.
We do. We
No,
have a
Bill
couple of
Gates. Bill
billionaires.
Gates is liberal.
Oh, I thought you said that's not true. Have you ever heard of Bill Gates?
Ever heard of Oprah?
Yeah, I was saying, no, that's true. Yeah, there's just white
Join
men in my
Oprah's
brain all the
club.
time.
We got
Sorry.
Oprah. We got the Amazon
Totally.
guy.
There's a bunch of people that
Got
have
Warren
a
Buffett.
lot of money
Yeah,
over
yeah.
here. Yeah, you can get paid
Wait, I
a
don't
lot
have
of
any.
money.
Where's this money? And no one's giving me.
I just more mean liberals in general
Good point, good
across the
point.
world. Yeah.
Or just there's more people over here.
There are. Yes,
and
yes.
if you're just going by clicks and hits and spins,
Yeah.
yeah.
$35 donation on average.
That's
okay?
incredible.
Just go. There's a lot of people that will do that. Just
Yeah, they care. A lot of people that care on this side.
Yeah,
And-
I think we'd welcome her fondly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean there'd be a lot of things to hash out.
Sure, we'll
Most
talk it over.
definitely.
We'll have some
Am I going to give you a
tea.
whole drawer of your own? You know, I have to figure out where the apartment gets split.
We'll
but-
go with
yeah.
the flow.
There's gonna need to be some reintegration work for sure. But
Yeah, can't
Just
wear
come sit
pink
down
on
with our-
Wednesdays.
Come
yeah.
sit down with our death panels. and
Exactly.
we'll make sure you're fine. All right, guys, ready for the Fantasy Indictment League?
Yes.
I'm gonna be indicted!
No, wait, it's gonna be okay.
Indicted!
Honey, Dick,
Indicted!
honey.
I'm gonna be indicted!
Hold it, they can't. It's gonna be okay. Just calm down.
I can't calm down, I'm gonna be indicted!
All right, guys, no indictments this week, so no points, and I get to pick first. And I'm going with Broidy. I feel like it's going to be Broidy's time. I'm not going to say that terrible joke that Roger Stone always says.
Oh,
but
no worries.
I think his time is coming.
yeah.
I will go with Weiselberg.
All right.
I'm
Somebody
going.
writing these down?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Donald Trump Jr. Why not? Just start off with a Hail Mary.
Just throw it out there. Tom Barack.
Okay.
Mm.
Sherry Dillon for me.
All right. Okay. That's one of Trump's lawyers from the Trump org, I think.
Trump inaugural.
Trump inaugural.
Oh,
All right.
thank you.
I'm going to go with the Trump org.
Oh, that was your pick, inaugural.
Yeah, Trump inaugural. Yeah.
And then org for you, AG. Okay.
Yes.
Well, since we're all doing Trump stuff, does he have anything left that he owns?
The Trump campaign.
I want the campaign then.
Or
I
Trump
feel
The
Ice.
left
answer is
out.
no. He owns nothing.
Trump Ice, the water.
That's right, Trump Ice. Never forget.
He had up on his financial disclosure forms this week that he made like $250,000 from Trump Ice.
Yeah.
It's been defunct since 2010.
It's amazing. It's my turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone asked me why on Twitter. Sorry, I didn't respond to you. I'm publicly calling myself out right now. They asked me why I picked Sater in the Fantasy Indictment League, and it's just because of his relationship with the Trump Tower Moscow and everything.
Well, as it turns out, though, he's a cooperating witness
Right,
for
that's-
the FBI. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they said.
So maybe he lied to Congress about Trump Tower Moscow as an informant for the FBI.
Yeah.
You want to switch it
Is
up
that
this week?
something you can do that I still feel like you can? You can lie to Congress as long as the FBI knows that.
If the Congress knows.
Wouldn't you just say I can't answer that question?
I would.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way,
But it could blow your cover, you know?
Yeah,
you don't want to look like...
If you want to keep Sater
guess
and
so.
he gets like indicted next week and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's like a rando if nothing else, right?
All these are just fantasies anyway, so I'll just keep them on there, I guess.
tight.
All right, I'll do AMI.
Yes. I will do Brittany Kaiser as per usual.
I'm going to do Corsi plea deal.
Ooh, good one. It's coming.
You think he'll plea up finally?
I don't know. It's been so long at this
I think they'll
point.
just
I
indict
feel
that
like
fucker.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, good point.
That's true. It's sort of been
Because
like
he has that whole lawsuit against the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, Mueller, and the Department of Justice.
yes, he's acting up, but at this point, it's been so long since he's been severely acting up. I wonder if maybe some sense has come around to him or something. And
Could be.
I don't know. Like they didn't take the bait really, so it's like, all right, well.
Is this my fifth pick?
This is your fifth pick.
Last one?
Yeah, last round.
Assange.
Cool. That fucking guy. I'm going to do Eric Prince.
Nice.
Oh.
I forgot about him.
I forgot about him
Right?
too. I was trying to. I knew that.
There's
that
so
was,
many players. I actually write them down. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
There's still Pecker and Dylan Howard
Oh,
from
yeah.
AMI that haven't been picked yet.
Yeah. Where's Credico at in all this right now? Do you
Good
think
question.
in terms of
Where in the
sentiment that investigative bodies have? Let's do. I'm just gonna go with.
Yeah, and Nunberg hasn't been.
Oh, Nunberg! That
haven't heard none
fucking
from
idiot.
Nunberg.
That old guy.
I just think of her red plump face.
Yeah,
it
with
makes
his
me
cute
happy
little face.
because he got totally owned
Yeah.
on television. Oh, really? Oh, god.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
when
yeah,
Viola
I'll
Wiley
testify.
talked
Yeah.
him down off the ledge. She's like, you'll go to jail. He's like, really? Oh, never mind. I don't want to do that. That sounds bad. Jail's bad.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go with WikiLeaks.
Okay.
Nice.
Wiki. Yeah, that's 5 for us,
All right,
guys. That's
that's
the
it.
game, yeah.
Cool. All right, guys, we'll be right back with an interview with Elie Honig, and it's really awesome, so stick around for it. Spring is here, and that means it's time for spring cleaning. Yay! And I just got started using the amazing non-toxic products I get from Grove. Grove makes shopping for healthier home products more affordable and easier. Over 500,000 families shop Grove.co for non-toxic dish soap, plant-based skincare, and tree-free bath tissue. Grove takes all the work out of having to research the sustainability and healthiness of the best natural, eco-friendly products online, and they deliver straight to your door, saving you even more time. Right now, you can get an exclusive offer from Grove on Mrs. Meyers. Select your favorite spring scents like peony, lilac, or mint, and new customers will get a free cleaning set in these limited edition scents when you place your first order for $20. That's a free Mrs. Meyers spring hand soap kit, or a free Mrs. Meyers spring dish soap, or the free Mrs. Meyers spring multi-surface spray. They also have Grove Collaborative cleaning caddies and the Grove Collaborative walnut scrubber sponges, which I love. Everything available at Grove is healthier for you and the planet, and they work wonderfully. They carry all my favorites, including the Mrs. Meyers stuff, 7th Generation, Burt's Bees, and Grove products as well. I recently got all my eco-friendly 7th Generation cleaning products from Grove. I used to have to travel to the store to get them, so I was really happy to find them there. I was amazed by the price and the convenience, and I found some products I didn't know about, like the Mrs. Meyers Multi-Surface Lilac Cleaner. I love lilacs, and I got that too. And I use it, and it's absolutely wonderful. And eco-friendly, and it's healthy, non-toxic, which is great for the podcasts. I know I could trust everything I buy from Grove, so I can't say enough wonderful things about this. They just take the work out of having to research all that sustainability and non-toxic plant-based stuff. So try Grove now before this exclusive spring offer runs out. For a limited time, our listeners get a 3-piece cleaning set from Mrs. Meyers Spring Scents, a free 60-day VIP membership, and a surprise bonus gift just for you when you sign up and place an order of $20 or more. Check out Grove and our special offer at grove.co, that's .co/AG. Again, that's grove.co/AG, not .com. grove.co/AG. You'll be glad you did. Joining us for the interview today is someone we've been wanting to talk to for a while. It's former federal and state prosecutor and CNN legal analyst Elie Honig. We really appreciate you coming on to talk to us. So a couple of things I really wanted to discuss today are the implications of Judge Sullivan's decision and the release of cooperation information in the Flynn case, along with your views on Bill Barr's judgment, the judgment calls that he's been making and handling the release of the Mueller report and beyond. But first, can I get your initial reactions to the news about Flynn this week? It's pretty bombshell stuff.
Yeah, it is. My first reaction is actually a lot of this was already sort of known to the public. There are a few extra details that have come out this week, but the basic gist of Flynn and his cooperation and the efforts that people around Trump will say made to dissuade him from cooperating, to vaguely threaten him and to sort of maybe even potentially reward him if he didn't, that's already largely in the Mueller report. And to me, it really underscored the fact that there's so much in there that really very few people, a very small percentage of the general public has absorbed and understood. And we've seen polling showing that something like 3% of the American public has actually read the report. I don't expect people to read it word for word. It's 440 something pages, but the fact that it drives home for me is there's so much stuff in there that is so concerning and that is either criminal or an abuse of power that is just sitting there, but it's not even been fully mined or sort of put out in the public conscience.
Yeah, totally. And like you said, we've kind of been reporting on these things for example, the phone calls back and forth between Flynn and members of the Trump campaign. And just like you said, some of that obstruction stuff. I didn't realize that they had an actual voicemail of somebody doing that, which is pretty crazy. And that Judge Sullivan Judge Sullivan, who, by the way, was asking Mueller's team why they hadn't considered charging Flynn with treason. That kind of that phone call evidence, he wants that released, that voicemail evidence. And I think the obstruction implications are pretty explosive in that case, and that Mueller likely meant for the obstruction investigation to be continued by Congress. But what about all this new stuff that we might be seeing about the Russia investigation, where Mueller's already decided he has not found evidence of a conspiracy that rose to the level of criminality, but that doesn't mean that collusion didn't happen and bad things didn't take place. So how important do you think this news is?
Yeah, people need to understand this idea, and there's this talking point that's being put out there by the president and our attorney general as well. No collusion. That is complete nonsense. And you can start with the Mueller report. Robert Mueller goes out of his way in the report. And I was glad to see him do this because a lot of prosecutors and I had said this before the Mueller report came out, which is collusion is not a legal term. It's not a criminal term. There's a very narrow area of antitrust law, which has nothing to do with this. But other than that, you will not find the word collusion in any criminal law book. It will never be uttered by a serious prosecutor. The term here is conspiracy. So let's start with that. What Mueller found is not that Trump did nothing or that people around him did nothing, including Don Trump Jr. and Manafort and Kushner. He just found there was not enough evidence to charge a crime of conspiracy. That's a very high burden, and there's plenty of room between did nothing and not enough to charge a crime.
Yeah, in fact, you can't even open an investigation. You can't even open an investigation if nothing was done, if there was no collusion. So there's at least some.
Right. I mean, you have to have a good faith basis. The other thing is, let's also remember, it's not as if the Mueller report comes up completely empty on volume one. I mean, first of all, there was a massive proven criminal campaign by Russians to hack into our election in a criminal way. And this sort of gets to the Barr thing. Remember Barr's 4-page letter that was so important because it set the public tone. It's the first impression that we as the public had, and first impressions are so important and lasting. And Barr did something really sneaky and I think dishonest, which is he quoted the second part of a sentence where I don't have it in front of me, but essentially he said, Mueller found that there was not enough evidence to charge a criminal conspiracy between Trump campaign members in Russia. But he cut out the first half of that exact same sentence, which is on page 1 of volume 1 of the report, which essentially says, I found that the Russians engaged in a broad criminal conspiracy to hack the election and that members of the Trump campaign expected to benefit electorally from those crimes. I mean, that is incredibly dangerous and problematic stuff. Maybe it doesn't quite meet the definition of a criminal conspiracy under our code, but boy, it is enormously consequential. If they expected to benefit, that is the term. That means A, they knew about it, B, they liked it, and C, they were hoping to profit from it, not necessarily financially, but to win politically from it.
Right. And I mean, that could even be, articles of impeachment, or an article of impeachment does not have to rise to the level of criminality that prosecutors need in order to move forward with an indictment. So this is something to me that seems like an impeachable offense as well. But I think maybe Barr's characterization with that letter could have mucked it all up.
Well, correct. And one of, I guess, the successes, and Trump's legal team has had some successes. I don't think they've handled things in a particularly skilled manner, but sometimes you win. And one of the successes that they had they've been very good at setting the public discourse and the public expectation. And one of the things they did very early on that seems to have stuck is this idea of crime or go home. And that if it's not a crime, pack up your bags, forget about it. Who cares about these non-criminal abuses of power? And I think they succeeded in that. And look, Barr just took that baton from them and ran with it. And I think the more we look back at that, at Barr's whole campaign, really, to spin this report before it came out, the worse it seems. Let's remember, Barr had held on to that report, Mueller's report, for about 3.5 to 4 weeks, I think, before he put it out there. And he really had launched a campaign. It started with his 4-page letter, which was incredibly one-sided and misleading. As we later learned, Robert Mueller told Barr to his face in a letter, right? And and Mueller's complaint to Barr was very straightforward. He said, "You've mischaracterized the context, nature, and substance of my findings." Well, there's not a lot other than context, nature, and substance. And then Barr testified in front of Congress the first time when there was all sorts of spin. And then he had that ridiculous press conference an hour before the report came out. And that report was I'm sure in a conference room down the hall from him, ready to go. But he wouldn't put it out until after he had his conference, where he embarrassed himself and repeated this no collusion stuff over and over, and continued to say things that were later disproven either by the report or by what we later learned about what Robert Mueller said to him. And to me, number one on the list, Bill Barr has not given anything resembling a coherent explanation or convincing explanation for his decision to just sweep away all the obstruction evidence. Look, Bill Barr was Attorney General before, but in the 90s, but I don't believe he has any actual prosecutorial experience aside from that. I don't think he's ever worked a case or done a trial as a criminal prosecutor. And it shows, because any prosecutor, and there's the letter out there that got a lot of attention that I signed. It was one of, I think we're coming up on 1,000 now, former federal prosecutors who've signed it, over 900, saying there is more than enough evidence in the Mueller report to indict the president. Now, we get it. We get the DOJ policy exists. He can't be indicted. But if he was a normal person, he would be indicted. And Barr has offered almost nothing to defend his conclusion that there was not enough to charge obstruction.
Yeah, and speaking of the whole no collusion campaign, which started a long time ago, it really makes me want to get a hold of those transcripts, or at least to talk to or question the translator in some of those meetings with Putin, because I think Asha Rangappa was who put out a story on the idea of no collusion and tricking the public into thinking that's a thing, and it was called reflexive control, and it's a Russian active measure. I don't think that Trump could have come up with that by himself, and I just have this feeling that came from somewhere else.
Yeah, and here's the thing: another way that I think Giuliani and the team were successful in framing this debate beforehand was basically, if you don't have a tape recording of Trump discussing a plan with Putin or a signed contract, it's not going to be collusion. But I mean, this is the real world, and everyone knows what everyone else says, whether it's on social media, behind a podium, through back channels. And so it's much more complex than just, was there some sort of spoken or written explicit agreement? And I think going back to the Mueller report's finding that the Trump campaign knew about and expected to benefit from this.
Yeah, so here's a question for you. The Congress, our House, the Dems in the House and Intel Judiciary Committee, they don't have prosecutorial power, but if they were to look into obstruction of justice, which is, I think, what Mueller wanted them to do, impeachment is really their only remedy, isn't it? I mean, they could try to make a criminal referral to the Department of Justice, but you're just giving it to Barr.
Yeah. You're right. I think, first of all, I agree that Mueller absolutely intended to hand this off to Congress. It's all over the report. There's all sorts of language in there about how it's Congress's constitutional imperative to investigate and hold the president accountable. And I think that's why Mueller sort of pulled up short of making a declaration on whether the president had obstructed justice. We can question him, I think, rightly on that decision, but I think his intent was absolutely for Congress to take this over. Yes, there's really nothing they can do criminally. You're right. The only thing they can do is send it to DOJ, but that's you might as well just send it down the trash compactor because Bill Barr runs DOJ. But yes, impeachment is an option. I mean, look, there are precedents to impeachment. There are things that come before a vote of the entire House of Representatives, including meaningful fact finding. And I do think that this far, I feel like I'm just criticizing everybody, but thus far, I don't think Chairman Jerry Nadler, has done a very good job. Frankly, I think he's getting steamrolled by the White House. And here we are a month out from the report coming out, and he's really accomplished nothing towards having meaningful fact finding. And I don't know if it's because he can't figure out how he wants to do it, or he's afraid to do it politically. I know there's a calculation. We've all seen Democratic members of the House out there talking about how, well, it's not going to be politically popular. It's not going to, voters may not like it.
Yeah, we agree. Here at Mueller, She Wrote, we've been, at first we were like, maybe stay away from it. But we came around when we just figured opening an inquiry just to get some of these hearings on the record and to make it easier for you to get the material that you need through the subpoenas or the grand jury material under Rule 6E. You've now, if you open up an inquiry, you've set up your judicial proceeding and therefore are just owed that material. By that, the very nature of starting an inquiry, and then you don't have to go full impeachment, So I don't understand why they don't do it.
And Nadler needs to stand up for Congress's role in all of this, right? Congress is a co-equal branch, or supposed to be. We have a system of checks and balances, and he's just getting defied and ignored left and right. Every subpoena he serves, he's being told to go pound sand, and thus far, he has not brought anything. He's going to have to go to the courts. That's entirely clear, right? He's not going to send the old-fashioned congressional sergeant at arms to throw people in the ceremonial congressional prison. So, and no one cares about contempt anymore, right? I mean, Attorney General Holder was held in contempt. Now Attorney General Barr was held in contempt. Barr's out there cracking jokes on the roast circuit about how he's held in contempt. It almost seems to enjoy that status. So no one cares about contempt. Let's just be real. So what Nadler's going to have to do if he wants to be taken seriously and if he wants to get anywhere is get into court, get in there quickly, stop getting strung along, stop setting new deadlines. And yes, he has to do some negotiation, some good faith negotiation, but we all see where it's headed. But get into court and back your subpoenas and make your argument. And by the way, on top of that, don't wait for the court process to play out because it's going to take forever. You have to demand expedited judicial ruling. And we saw that in D.C. this week when another committee ended up in front of Judge Mehta in D.C. And he, to his credit, said, we're expediting this. And the Trump lawyers, the White House lawyers objected, but he said no.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Judge Mehta set an excellent example for that. And of course, Trump's legal argument is that Congress doesn't have oversight of the executive branch, which blew my mind. Do you think, given everything that you've talked about Barr, I read your article about Barr's judgment that you wrote for CNN, your opinion, and do you think that could it be possible, and I know this is wild speculation, but we tend to do that here, but we frame it as such. Do you think that maybe the Mueller investigation was ended prematurely?
I don't know. I don't think so. Let me say that right up front. It would certainly be early on the list of questions I would want to ask Robert Mueller if and when he testifies. I think that's very important. The problem is there is no definitive starting line or finish line when you run a criminal investigation, especially a sprawling, complex one like this one. It's not like running a race. We start here and you finish, you break the tape here, and that's that. Especially in a case like this. And we saw all the different tentacles that came out of it, the 12 or 14 different cases that Mueller referred out. I mean, at some point, I think he had to wrap up. There are other aspects of the case that still need to be brought to fruition. We still have the Roger Stone trial ahead. I think I think someday we'll learn that Manafort's cooperation was artificially tanked, whether he was under outside influence or not. But I think that could have broken open a lot of new doors. I've not seen any direct evidence that someone said to Mueller, you're done. Here's your end by date. And that he resisted. I think he understood that he had a certain shelf life that he had to wrap up.
And well, as of today, he's still the special counsel, according to spokesman Peter Carr. And, you know, I think 2 months ago, he was supposed to leave the Department of Justice within days. So, and, you know, I'm not going to pretend that I know why he's still there, but I do think that that the holdup in his setting a date for his testimony might have something to do with the fact that he's still there.
Yeah, I wonder what he does all day now. And I am getting my suspicious antenna are raising now on this whole question over Will Mueller testifying in Congress. Right? Remember, Trump went from it's up to the AG to he should not testify to back to I'll leave it up to our quote very great attorney general. I mean, he's fawning over this guy who's protecting him. And then Barr says, "I'm cool. It's up to Mueller." And now there's reporting out today that actually one of the causes of holdup is the White House's exertion of executive privilege over the whole report. So it turns out everyone's trying to play it cool and act like, hey, fine with me. But now I was not shocked to learn that it sounds like there is some resistance being put up by some of the powers that be.
Agreed. And yeah, I knew something was up when they exerted executive privilege over the entire Mueller report, even though 80% of it had gone public. So I'm sure that Trump's legal team and Trump knows and Barr knows that every single day that they delay some sort of important testimony or release of information to the public is good for them, and they'll just buy each day as they can.
Absolutely right. Look, it's not that long until November 2020. Every day that goes by feeds into the argument that I think, look, we've heard it from Speaker Pelosi and to some extent from Nadler, which is well, it's too close to an election and the solution will be at the ballot box. It is 100% in the White House and Trump's interest every day of delay. And this is why Nadler has to either, let's make a move or let's drop it.
Yes, agreed. All right, former federal and state prosecutor, CNN legal analyst Elie Honig. Elie, thanks so much for coming on Mueller, She Wrote today.
Cool. Thank you for having me. It was good talking to you.
All right, guys, that's our show. Wow, what a crazy week.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of news.
Mm-hmm. And we came back from the Webbies this week, so this is like our first non-out-of-town episode or, main episode. So I feel like my body's just now getting back to normal. Everything's settling in finally. Yeah.
It was a busy few days.
Mm-hmm.
It really was a lot of events.
Yes, it was a lot of socializing, which was fantastic, but it takes a lot more out of you than you realize until you get home and you're like, fuck.
Definitely.
Yeah. I'm not even an introvert, and I felt that shit.
Yeah. I didn't know what day it was or what time it was for like so many days.
Yes.
Yeah.
And big shout out to all of our people that came out and hung out with us,
Definitely.
who are introverts or extroverts or whoever, because we know it takes time and effort. So thank you.
Yeah, those are our people.
It was so cool to meet you all.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely. And I can't wait to see you guys in Minneapolis. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
Parkway Theater, come out to that. MullerSheWrote.com for tickets. You guys have any final thoughts? I can't think of anything else.
Just love you guys so much.
I think we covered it all.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet more of you.
Yeah, totally. And don't give up, please.
Very good
This
point.
week sucked really bad.
Yeah.
But like
Julia said, we're tired, but we're not done.
That thread was amazing. So
it was really good. Read it if you get a chance. Julia Peacock, California's 42nd. Yeah,
amazing.
I think that's where Murrieta is.
Oh, close.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so
I feel that energy. Yeah.
We need to get that Republican incumbent Calvert out.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
So everyone check her out and follow her. And she's an amazing example and a brave woman running.
Yes. And
running for Congress.
Totally. And there's like other things in your community you can do too that aren't even necessarily, race oriented, as in political race. Like you could contribute to your local, KPBS. That's what it is for us, like your local NPR station. There's so many things you could do just to promote truth right now.
Absolutely.
Yep. So get out there, do it. And if you need to rest. Because you can't. I should take that advice.
No, but very good advice.
You can't just keep going all day, every day.
It's true.
AG.
No,
yes.
we're all good people. We all have good intentions, but yeah, take care of yourself so you can keep up the fight for sure.
And voice your opinions also.
Yes.
Not all of us have money, so we can do it with our words.
That's true.
Yeah.
And or ask somebody to do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not a vocal person.
Yes.
But there's so many people, this community, everybody I've met, everyone's so helpful and so willing to go out on a limb for you and so willing to do things to help and to fill in the blanks where they need to be filled in. So, and I've been an activist for decades, and I've never seen a community this strong.
It's
before.
special. It's very special.
So thank you guys. And again, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I've been AG.
I've been Jaleesa Johnson.
I've been Jordan Coburn.
And this is Mueller, She Wrote. Mueller, She Wrote is produced and engineered by AG with editing and logo design by Jaleesa Johnson. Our marketing consultant and social media manager is Sarah Lee Steiner, and our subscriber and communications director is Jordan Coburn. Fact-checking and research by AG, and research assistance by Jaleesa Johnson and Jordan Coburn. Our merchandising managers are Sarah Lee Steiner and Sarah Hirschberger Valencia. Our web design and branding are by Joelle Reeder with Moxie Design Studios, and our website is MuellerSheWrote.com.